Shopping fraud is one of the most, if not the most common volume fraud that there is.
Maybe sees a link on social media, warehouse clearance.
You have a ticking clock. Hurry, buy it now before it's too late.
Huge discount on the item, so you think it's a great deal.
They go to the website, they pay their money and the goods never show it. It's a purchase scam.
And then after they charge you money and they steal your data may then get sold on the dark web somewhere, so then you can see a recurring fraud. My wife and I had a baby, and we went to a well-known home goods store. I was going out of business, so there was a lot of sales they had. This is a nationwide store, and we shopped around, whatever, buy some dishes. And we leave the store, we go home. She gets this pop-up ad for what appears to be the same brand of that store, but except that it's the baby department that is having a wholesale. And they have strollers and they have car seats. And I mean, the prices were ridiculously low. And my wife starts picking things and she's like, excited. And before she bought it, she's like, well, can you make sure that this is a good site? And I started looking at the site and I'm like, this feels off. And I went back to my team the next day at work and I said, hey, look, let's take a look at that. But what we found is that the cybercriminals now adapted and they tried to use global well-known events. And this was a national brand, well-known brand. It was going out of business. So they played on that, right? They're like, oh, well, let's create these other sites. We'll play off on the fact that it's going out of business. People will associate it and people will believe it. It's going to be more believable that there's huge discounts on varied items.
I've been fortunate to work all over the payments industry. So I've had the opportunity really to experience the whole spectrum. So the patterns, unfortunately, are pretty consistent around the world. And so a lot of them are related to purchase scams. For MasterCard, that means more than just the payment rails. As we launch our products in account to account and crypto and open finance, we believe very strongly that for consumers, you should have that strong sense of trust wherever you are. You shouldn't have to think, am I protected on this rail or if I pay by cards? You should have that consistency wherever you are.
There's this old phrase, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. That doesn't really ring true in many cases. These criminals will use lots of different techniques that are specifically engineered to make sense. And what they're doing here is harnessing contextual vulnerability. There are some really great deals you can have around Black Friday, for example, and other types of deals that are specially for Christmas or Boxing Day or any kind of holiday time deals. So we can't really rely on that as a reliable indicator if something's fraudulent or not.
The kind of newer space which we're operating in more and more, and we're seeing in fraudulent scams, is the online world. So 80% plus is online crime of some description. I think we spend more time shopping online than in any other Western nation. It's not as odd to see a massive price differential because of products coming to the end of its line or, overstocked or whatever the reason is. They know that. That's why they jump on that particular season.
When you're buying tickets, for example, or clothes or in a sale. And this is an example of what I've termed genre mapping, mapping their techniques, their criminal techniques onto reflecting genuine techniques that are used by organisations. They exploit our own humanness to make ourselves feel as though we need to rush.
So how do you make a decision to buy anything online, right? Well, there'll be a degree of consciousness and a degree of subconsciousness.
Everything they do will reinforce what you expect, which is why victims or targets will never think, oh, is this real or is this fake?
If you type in a search bar, a great pair of pants, and you actually have an ad that comes up, here's a great pair of pants, that gives you a little bit of confidence. I'm on a legit site, making searches. That legit site is offering me something, and that's got to be legit. Well, again, the cyber criminals understand that and they can abuse that. So they can actually sort of create ads and ad campaigns, and they'll configure them very well to where they're going to be actually competitive with real brands.
49% of consumers admit they are likely to ignore security warnings if they need an item to arrive before a specific holiday. And 78% further agree last-minute holiday shopping makes people more vulnerable to scams.
Fraudsters are just looking for that opportunity to create the urgencies. But ultimately, the price differential is often the big clue. They know people out there might be struggling financially, but they still want these goods and services and opportunities. They still want that deal.
Brand abuse, that can also happen, where they'll try and impersonate a well-known brand and kind of make it sound like this brand is having a sale and this is some kind of outlet for that brand. So say it's an online retailer somewhere in Italy, local, it's beautiful, it's really nice. They'll make a copy of that website and then they'll launch it in the United States. It looks very legitimate.
I think scammers are like water. They're not looking to make their lives complicated. They're looking to find the weak spots. So they know exactly what their demographic is. They know the products and services they're looking for. And using that data, they can really specifically target and drive deals that look too good to be true. We also see variations of that with non-delivery scams, where a consumer thinks that they are just paying for delivery fees in order to get a kind of an expedited product, and obviously the product never shows up, or it's a fake product.
Sporting events, if you're into boxing or soccer matches or football matches and whatnot, there are certain streaming services that you have to pay, a lot of money to watch a boxing match, for example. And a lot of people will say, you know what, let me see if I can find free streaming service. And then they'll get links to these suspicious websites, let's call them. And a lot of times, if they're streaming for free, they're probably not a legal site. They're probably doing something illegal. But some of them are more illegal than others. Some of them will actually say, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's free, it's only $1. We just gotta verify who you are. So they'll take $1 payment from you, and you think, okay, $1, not a big deal. I'll watch it for $1 instead of paying, 40, 50, $100 to watch it on a legitimate site.
Sometimes you get redirected to something crazy, like I have no idea what website I'm on anymore. Sometimes they go out of their way to make it look like you're in the right place.
Those are really the key ones, and I think then tied to that are subscription scams, where a consumer thinks they're buying one thing and actually they find themselves signed up to, a monthly delivery of cosmetics that they never intended.
Because you probably clicked on the first link, that's going to take you to a redirect page, that's going to take your payment information, that's going to take you to a third page that will say you actually subscribe to $30 a month service after 3 days if you don't cancel it. Canceling it may be actually quite difficult because you're going to write an email to somewhere unknown and nobody will respond. They may not even have a phone number, or if they do have a phone number, that phone number will keep ringing.
You'll be making that claim, as will thousands, maybe tens of thousands of other people. I think it's really important as a business that we focus on the parts of our ecosystem that need the most help. If that's a small mum and pop shop with an online presence, that's absolutely where they're focused too. So we need to make sure the whole ecosystem is safe.
It's difficult without a trained eye to be able to determine if something is a complete scam. There's no immediate red flags without sort of doing a little dive in.
Criminals are using AI to optimize how they're delivering scams. But I think equally we can use AI more aggressively within our data that helps us identify where we see patterns and trends much faster.
In the early days, again, a scam website may live many months because people didn't know that this was a problem. They were very careful. And then at some point, they sort of switched some techniques. They became sort of known to the industry. So the detection could have been anywhere between 2 weeks and a month. And nowadays, they can live even longer than that because, again, they're using a lot more advanced techniques, maybe better customer support function. So that way you don't report it as a scam to your financials so they can stay operating longer.
Let's take the example of a purchase scam. And so here, let's imagine there's a fraudster who has identified some high market value goods. It could be the latest technology device like a phone or a watch, or it could be high value sneakers. For that fraudster, it's relatively easy for them to use AI and build very quickly what looks like a legitimate website that they can host somewhere of their choosing. And now all of the products within that website are fake. All of the listings are fake, the prices are fake, the terms and conditions are fake, everything is fake. They will find a way to accept payment through that website, and that could be through a local account-to-account network or some other form.
The way criminals, in some cases, create these websites, they'll create them in batches. So maybe at one time, they'll create 10, 20, 50, 100 websites. But they will launch only a certain number of them. So they'll launch a website, they'll create a merchant account.
They will begin to market that site, and they'll particularly target channels like social media.
And in some instances, they may have unlimited resources to run these ads because, well, they can use stolen payment card data to pay for these ads.
They'll look to filter specifically in areas where there are demographics that are going to be looking for those kinds of goods.
That scam site may get detected, taken down, which, they're going to substitute with another site. They'll attach the same merchant to it. That's a scam merchant because, again, scam site might have gotten detected, but the merchant didn't.
There are really three ways that we identify merchants who may be operating scams. So the first is perhaps obviously through our data and through our cases where we see a triangulation of patterns. The second is using third-party web crawlers where we're able to target specific areas where we see a high pattern of threats. And we can use those web crawling agents to identify potential merchants that we can investigate that clearly don't look like they're associated with the brand that they claim to be selling. Lastly, we often have referrals from law enforcement agencies or other active third parties within the ecosystem who are seeking to do the best to protect, say, their partners' brands. And in those cases, we'll work with those agencies to investigate and take action on that particular merchant.
So our job is to create an AI tool that'll be able to detect whenever these websites are coming into play, whenever these websites are becoming active, whenever these websites are starting to get marketing campaigns launched on them.
Our feeling is that fraud and scams, there is a way through this with industry, public sector working together. Right?
So I've worked incredibly hard in order to try and get some of this information out there in a way that the public can understand. One of which is the Stop Think Fraud campaign, which is created by the Home Office, and it's a nationwide government campaign. It actually recognises that fraud is a very intricate psychological manipulation. So instead of assuming that individuals can automatically tell if something's a fraud or not, it suggests ways in which that you can triangulate your information. By triangulation, what I mean, talk to friends and family, ask them if they shopped at that online shop, for example, but also look at online reviews, a variety of them.
Check the merchant site. Does it look legitimate? Search it online. Also take a deep breath. Double check yourself.
There's not a single person that you're going to ask that hasn't been sort of affected by it, or just irritated by it, or had their time wasted by it, or this or that or the other. This really has gotten out of hand, and we will defeat this and we will fight this.
Secret Service works closely with private sector and other law enforcement partners to identify the different tactics and criminal scripts that are being used to defraud people.
That social engineering message, they can reach literally, hundreds of thousands, in a day.
The future of scams and risks, it's if I can spray an entire country with an email that asks for $10. I only need to do that one time.
Estimate based on just the data we can see is this is at least 3, 4, 5, 6 billion pounds of losses to individuals. That's not getting into losses to businesses.
We need everyone involved because the bad actors aren't siloed, we are.
It's not doom and gloom, it's just a veil that sits between the world of people living in it and then the veil of people that are kind of working behind the curtain to try and combat it.
I think it will get better. I think we'll learn how to counter them way better. We learn how to predict and how to stop crimes better.
Being able to bring together what we do with other MasterCard companies and subsidiaries creates a lot of potential for us to attack this problem.
We use a mixture of both MasterCard and technology and resources and third parties, as well as working with industry partners and other entities that are actively operating to safeguard the ecosystem. Scams really tug at the heartstrings because they take away that trust, and for us, trust is everything.